Hello, I'm Father Joe Roesch of the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception. Thank you for joining us as we continue with our year-long journey reading the diary of St. Maria Faustina Kowalska from beginning to end. Today we take up from where we left off, beginning with diary entry number 1287. Despite the peace in my soul, I fight a continuous battle with the enemy of my soul. More and more I am discovering his traps, and the battle flares up anew. During interludes of calm, I exercise myself and keep watch, lest the enemy find me unprepared. And when I see his great fury, I stay inside the stronghold, that is, the most sacred heart of Jesus. September 19th, 1937. Today the Lord told me, "My daughter, write that it pains me very much when religious souls receive the sacrament of love merely out of habit, as if they did not distinguish this food. I find neither faith nor love in their hearts. I go to such souls with great reluctance. It would be better if they did not receive me. Most sweet Jesus, set on fire my love for you, and transform me into yourself. Divinize me, that my deeds may be pleasing to you. May this be accomplished by the power of the Holy Communion which I receive daily. Oh, how greatly I desire to be wholly transformed into you, O Lord." September 19th, 1937. Today my own brother, Stanley, visited me. I rejoiced greatly in this beautiful soul, who also intends to devote himself to God's service. That is to say, God himself is drawing him to his love. We talked for a long time about God, about his goodness. During this conversation with him, I learned how pleasing his soul was to God. I received permission from Mother Superior to see him more often. When he asked my advice about entering religion, I replied, "Surely you know best what God is asking of you." I mentioned the Jesuit order, but said, "Enter wherever you like." I promised to pray for him, and I decided to make a novena to the Sacred Heart through the intercession of Father Peter Skarga, with the promise of having it announced in the Messenger of the Sacred Heart, because he is having great difficulties in this matter. I understood that, in this case, prayer was more useful than advice. September 21st. Having awakened several times during the night, I thanked God, briefly, but with all my heart, for all the graces he has given to me and to our congregation, and I reflected on his great goodness. When I received Holy Communion, I said to him, "Jesus, I thought about you so many times last night." And Jesus answered me, "And I thought of you before I called you into being." Jesus, in what way were you thinking about me? In terms of admitting you to my eternal happiness. After these words, my soul was flooded with the love of God. I could not stop marveling at how much God loves us. It so happened that I fell again into a certain error, in spite of a sincere resolution not to do so. Even though the lapse was a minor imperfection and rather involuntary, and at this I felt such acute pain in my soul that I interrupted my work and went to the chapel for a while. Falling at the feet of Jesus with love and a great deal of pain, I apologized to the Lord, all the more ashamed because of the fact that in my conversation with him after Holy Communion this very morning, I had promised to be faithful to him. Then I heard these words, "If it hadn't been for this small imperfection, you wouldn't have come to me. Know that as often as you come to me, humbling yourself and asking my forgiveness, I pour out a superabundance of graces on your soul, and your imperfection vanishes before my eyes, and I see only your love and your humility. You lose nothing, but gain much." St. Faustina writes here of experiencing peace in her soul, but at the same time there is a constant battle with the evil one. She recognizes the traps that he sets for her, She is like a soldier preparing for battle, knowing that the next salvo will arrive shortly. She wants to be always prepared. In the Gospel, Jesus tells us to be vigilant. Jesus speaks of being pained by religious who don't receive communion with recollection, but mindlessly, out of habit. Jesus speaks against the lukewarm in the book of Revelation. And Faustina was visited by her brother Stanley. She called him a beautiful soul who was very pleasing to God. She writes that he was having great difficulties in answering the call to a religious vocation. We should pray for people like this who are struggling to say yes to God's call, especially if he's calling them to the priesthood and the religious life, and there are obstacles in their way, and they're afraid to give an affirmative answer to the Lord. When Faustina woke up at night, she used it as an opportunity to pray and to thank God for graces received and to reflect on his goodness. And then when she received Holy Communion, she spoke to Jesus from the heart and said that, "I thought of you during the night." And he revealed that he was thinking of her before she even existed. So the Lord really does want to have a very close personal relationship with each one of us in which we can be comfortable speaking to one another. Faustina lamented about falling into a small error, but then she visited the chapel and asked Jesus for pardon, and Jesus said, "If you hadn't fallen, you wouldn't have come to see me." And then he gave her so many graces and forgave her little error. So Jesus can draw good even out of our mistakes.